Hari Om Shailaja ji.
Hari Om.
Yeah. So can we chant the Vedeshu Yagneshu?
Sure. Vedeshu Yagneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punyakalam pradishtam atyeti tatsarvamidam viditva yogi param stanamupaiti chadyam. Sir, tune.
Tune. Let us recall the tune. Vedeshu Yagneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanamupaiti chadyam. Can you chant again?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Vedeshu yagneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tatsarvamidam viditva yogi param stanamupaiti chadyam.
Very nice.
Vedeshu means in the Vedas, Yagneshu in the Yagnas, Tapassu in austerities, Cha means and, Eva also, Daneshu in gifts, Yata whatever, Punya Phalam fruit of merit, Pradishtam is declared, Atyeti goes beyond, that Sarvam all, Idam this, Viditva having known, Yogi, Param supreme, Sthanam abode, Upaiti attains, Cha and Adyam eternal. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode.
Very nice. Thank you, Shailaja ji.
Thank you, sir.
So here Krishna is saying that the one who is involved in devotional service will also reach the Supreme. So what all you can we realize from this? What all do you want to share? So why is Sri Krishna here talking about that devotional service also leads to the final liberation? And why is he comparing that to studying of the Vedas, or performance of the yajnas, or danas, or here philosophical activities means pursuing the studies of various scriptures? So why is that comparison there?
So he's highlighting the Bhakti Yoga here.
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of the path which takes to the same destination or gives the same result as compared to studying the yogas is Jnana Yoga, the Vedas. And the other ones are like astures or sacrifices, giving charity or philosophical activities. So that is the comparing Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga with Bhakti Yoga, bringing all the three.
Right, right. So what are all the, so yoga, what is yoga? What does yoga mean?
Is it the path?
Yoga, the word yoga itself. Anybody else? What does yoga mean? Yeah, correct.
Union
Being
of
one.
mind and body.
Sorry,
Union of the mind and the body.
union of the mind and the body. Okay. Shubhaji, what were you saying?
That's what I was saying, sir. Union of the mind and the body.
Union of the mind and the body. Okay.
And all these are interrelated.
Okay. Any other view about what is yoga? Anybody else?
Is it like oneness?
Sure. Yoga means the meaning by the word, it just means to be in union. Union. Yoga means to be in union. So to be in union means before the union, there must be at least two. So it is union. So like you said, it is the union of the body, the mind, and the intellect at a physical level. It is at a spiritual level, union of the who I think I am, that let's say Jivatma, with Paramatma. So here yoga really means union, oneness. There is no more distinction. That division has gone. In other words, you can also see it as union of who I consider I am with the rest of the existence. So no more there is a me and the world. It is one. I don't think of it as, oh, this is this finger, that is that finger, they're separate. No, they're part of one. They're all part of this body. It's one. Like that, there is a complete feeling, deeper feeling of oneness. So yoga essentially means oneness. And what you mentioned, Saravananji, there are paths of attaining that oneness. So the four main paths are Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Kriya Yoga. So what are these yogas? What are these four different paths? What is, let's begin with Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga?
What you're doing now is Karma Yoga.
What we are doing now is Karma Yoga. Meaning what? What is the essence of the Karma Yoga?
Like you are teaching us the Bhagavad Gita, so that is your Karma Yoga.
What does it mean? Meaning, what is the attitude? What does karma mean? What does,
Service.
before we come to the that, what does karma mean?
Doing.
Your duty to the society.
Action.
Action. Simply, it means action. Okay. I can right now act to eat, act to speak. So everything is an action. Speaking is an action. Eating is an action. Moving the body is an action. Everything is an action. Karma simply means action. So what does then Karma Yoga means?
Oneness in action.
Meaning
Which is,
what?
To be aware
The
in
act. Yep, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, Jashwini-ji.
to be aware in all actions, whatever we do. We should be aware what are we doing.
To be aware. To be aware of what and aware of who. What does the, see, for example, right now, when I'm looking at the mobile, I can say, oh, I'm aware of the mobile. Or right now, when I'm looking at the computer, I can say, I'm aware of the computer. So like that, Karma Yoga, what are you aware of?
Aware of actions, what we do. every moment.
Okay. And if you're aware, what does it do? What does
Okay, if we are eating, so we should feel the touch of the food to the hand. Then we are putting it to the mouth. Then we should have touch to the tongue, taste. Then we are chewing. While chewing, we should be aware of chewing activity, touch, and taste together. And then we are swallowing it. So we should be aware of each and every action performed by hand, mouth, and then swallow.
excellent? So this is one of the initial steps in Karma Yoga. Yes, Asha ji, you want to say something?
Irrespective of whatever work we are doing, I mean, without the difference of feeling like this is good and bad, or this is great, or this is not. So with that attitude, we must be performing the karma.
Wonderful. So there's a point about awareness. There's a point about what the point you essentially brought out, Asha ji. It's about why are we performing action? Let's put that question. Any action, why do we perform the action? Why do I eat? Why do I talk? Why do I bathe? Why do I do kriya? Why do I chant? Why is that action being performed?
Basically, eating, we do it to nourish our body. So something
Okay.
like, so bathing is like to keep ourselves clean. So something like to purify.
True. So now let's take a general step. Why do I perform any action that I perform? I keep performing actions. What you told just now are all about during the action, how to be completely aware. Wonderful. I'm completely aware of the movements. Very nice. Now the question is, why am I performing that action? Any action for that matter.
Since we have taken the birth, we have to nourish our body, so we eat. So everything that we do in our life, we have taken this birth, so we have to function in the world. And to function in the world, we have to nourish our body, we have to work to nourish our body, and like this. And while living our life, we have to work on the, what can say, if we follow the spiritual path, our karmas will be reduced, and we will be free from our karmas,
Okay.
and work towards being one with the Paramatma.
Okay. Can any kind of action free us? Is it possible that, just the action itself frees us?
The action done in awareness frees us, because then it reaches to Parabrahma, and then it doesn't amount to the karma. The
But
fruits
what
are,
in that action, awareness of entirety has to be there, isn't it?
yes.
So before we can go to that stage, at a beginning stage, the mind is focused on a certain fruit of the action.
Yes.
It wants something. Why I should eat? Oh, this body has to be nourished. Why I should dress? I should look nice for the marriage. Why I should study? Oh, so that I can sound intelligent. So like that.
There's the intent.
There is a fruit that I expect. There is a result that I expect, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So One is there is an action being performed, then there's a fruit of the action that is expected. So karma yoga. So there are three kinds of actions. There is action done with the intent of wanting a fruit. There's an action done with an intention of without any expectation of the fruit, but for the benefit of the others. Then there's an action which is beyond all this, actionless action.
And one more thing is like we cannot just be sitting idle, right? So if we have to, if at all, like say if we are not using, say suppose we have got a cycle and we are not just using it. So basically it goes, slowly it deteriorates. So that
True.
is the reason why should we continuously be doing that.
Absolutely. But there, that is where the importance of these three kinds of action. Kamya karma. I want a fruit of that action. Anything that with that expectation, I want the fruit. So for example, I am going to the temple and I'm praying to the Lord and I'm offering some food to the others. It may seem like very good, but I have an expectation, let's say, that I want, for example, my leg pain to go away. So the Archaka told or somebody told that, go to this temple, do this puja, offer some food to others, you'll find the relief. So there is still an expectation, kamya karma, I want something. So anything done with an expectation has a tendency to bind us. Because then when I do that, did I get it or not get it? The mind goes into that judgment. And if let's say what I get is something that is nice, I feel nice, then I may want more of it. So kamya karma continues to engage the mind in a seeking nature. Oh, that is nice. Oh, that movie is nice. Oh my God, this director's movies are so nice. Let me now see the next movie. It made me feel so nice. Or, that food in that restaurant, wonderful. Can you recommend me other restaurants? Yeah. So now I have started seeking some kind of a fruit from these activities. All these fall under kamya karma. So from outside, it may look like I am going to restaurant and eating, or I'm going to temple and donating some money, but still the underlying intent is kamya. I want something. So these actions bind us because these actions fall into the accounting category. They bring papa punya. If the action benefits somebody, then I receive punya. If the action harms somebody, then it brings papa. So the accounting book keeps changing. These are all kamya karma. Then when we get into the spiritual path and when we want to realize our true selves and the nature of the existence, the first thing that a master gives us is engage yourself in seva. Seva is also an action. Say, for example, you go to some temple and clean the temple. Or you go to a school of blind children and you write exam for them. Or you take up studying Bhagavad Gita and you teach others. All are service, all are action only fundamentally. But here it is nishkama karma. I am not expecting the fruit of the result. May this action bring the greatest benefit to the other. So this nishkama karma helps the mind to be purified because the mind is programmed to seek. I want. Where did I receive the appreciation? Did I receive the money? Did I receive the status? Did I receive the power? Am I the one who got the promotion? So mind is seeking, want. So that seeking to reduce nishkama karma. So nishkama karma is where the seva is. This karma no more binds. Because here, action is being performed, but there is no expectation. So Krishna has already said, Arjuna, do your duty, but don't be attached to the fruit of the action. That is essentially what he means. Perform everything as a nishkama karma. Then comes the highest, actionless action. It is happening. So for the divine consciousness, it's an happening. It's a intent arises in the mind and all the things fall in place. So karma yoga means to walk in the path of kamya karma to nishkama karma to ultimately go beyond this. So karma yoga. So doing whatever you're doing itself liberates you. It is not necessary that one has to do something special. But the intention of the doing, the attitude of the doing has to be modified. So that is why great masters say, if you're cooking, now look at the cooking as a divine action. Who are you serving with your cooking? You're serving other devas in your home, other divine forms in your home. You may call them as husband, wife, child, maid. You may give them any name, but they're all the divine consciousness. So serve the Lord in the others in every moment of the day. So then no more the mind is hankering for recognition, what it got, what it lost. So mind becomes purified, chitta shuddhi. So that is the intention of the karma yoga. So there the union is through action. So there is no need to drop any action. Is this clear? Karma yoga?
And this all comes under again dharmic way of doing. Anything done the adharma, that's like completely off.
Yeah. So again, that is where Ashwini ji said awareness. In awareness, awareness is not just about one small unit. It is the entirety. So what seed am I putting with this action? Is this going to bear a mango fruit or a chili fruit? So awareness of that. And that is why nishkama karma, where there is no expectation, may it bring the best to the others. That is dharma. May it, the sun shines, not with the feeling that let me get the recognition, the claps from the people. The wind blows, the fruit bears the fruit, the tree bears the fruit. Like that, everything in this world, when you notice, which are in tune with the natural laws, they are all in what you can call as yagna, receiving and offering, receiving and offering. None of them are holding, receiving and offering. So the yagna attitude of action, nishkama karma is truly yagna attitude of action. What have I received and what have I shared? Am I keeping it anything for myself? So when I want anything for myself, then I'm getting into kamya karma. When whatever I do is to receive and share, because that is the natural rhythm of life. I take the oxygen from the tree and I leave the carbon dioxide which the tree takes. So there's a natural harmony, interdependence. This world we are living in is an interdependent world. I cannot exist alone. I'm part of this. So therefore, I have to offer. I'm taking so much. I'm taking so much from everyone. From my parents, from my teachers, from my friends, from my family, from the Mother Earth. So many beings are nourishing this body and mind. What am I using this for? So the attitude of the action is when it is for the benefit, then it is nishkama karma. So dharma means something that brings happiness, peace, prosperity to others, to all. Yes, Asha ji, you want to say something?
So basically, karma yoga, so we can just say it as like being insensitive to, like if we are saying like heat or cold. So remaining insensitive and performing our action, day-to-day action, like as though we are serving the God in each of the actions. So in that way, we can be
Yes.
doing.
Yes. So the example of insensitiveness to heat and cold, similarly, insensitiveness or rather not getting disturbed by praise or insult, not getting disturbed by, let's say, promotion or demotion. So, yeah, in that way, but I continue to serve.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So this is Karma Yoga. Now, before we come to the Bhakti Yoga, now what is Kriya Yoga? So a lot of practices associated with energy-based transformation. So for example, what is the intention behind doing Surya Namaskara? So at a very primitive level, I think it is to bring the health of the body. But as my mind becomes little subtler, I realize, oh, when I'm performing the Namaskara, my mind has to be in tune with the Namaskara that I'm doing. If my mind is somewhere else, my Namaskaram, whatever I'm doing, whatever the movement I'm doing in the body is not going to be beneficial. So integrate my mind with my body. Then I realize, oh, the mind and the body alone are not sufficient. Now, what is this that I am trying to integrate? There's a higher self. It is not just this body and mind that I'm integrating. Through the Surya Namaskara, I'm connected to the Surya Bhagavan. And that Surya Bhagavan is the symbol of the divine. Because this entire world runs by Surya Bhagavan. So that Surya Bhagavan is the inform symbol of the entire existence. If somebody has to know what is love, they should have felt the expression of love from someone. And for most of us, that first expression is from our mothers. When we think of love, oh, the way my mother used to care for me, the way my mother used to make me feel. Like that we feel. We get connected to the subtler aspect through a tangible expression. So the formless cannot be perceived without the awareness and the expression of that quality through the form. Love is an expression. Compassion is an expression. Kindness is an expression. I am kind is not going to help. What have I done to express that kindness? So like that, Surya Bhagavan is the symbol of that divine consciousness, which is unseen, everywhere, but the kindest. So Surya Namaskara then transcends even the mind and the body. I am getting connected to the divine. When I'm getting connected to the divine, who is there? The divine is only there. And what the divine is doing, there is a harmonious movement happening where everywhere. So Kriya Yoga is through the energy transformation, taking my mind from lower tendencies to the divine. So various practices come into picture. That is where even Patanjali Yoga comes into picture, where there's a step-by-step evolution. Yama, Niyama, Dharana, Pratyahara. So like that, it naturally progresses towards the ultimate aim of that Patanjali Yoga is also Samadhi. Samadhi. Dhi means intellect. Sama. Sama means a purified intellect which is stable. Sthita prajnatva is the ultimate aim of even Kriya Yoga. Through various transformational techniques, Surya Namaskara, Pranayama, even the various kinds of energy kriyas that we do. So all these fall in the Kriya Yoga path. But there, what is the goal? Not just, I want a fit body, I want to get rid of my asthma. That is a kind of a lower intent. The noble intent of all these practices given by our rishis is not just to get limited to the lower self, but to transcend and to realize the ultimate, the supreme. So Kriya Yoga is also a path, but by energy transformation. Then what is, we talked about Karma Yoga, we talked about Kriya Yoga. Before we jump to Bhakti Yoga, because that is the main focus of this shloka, what is Jnana Yoga then?
Learning the scriptures.
Yeah, reading the scriptures. Then what is the
Doing
purpose?
this.
Jnana Yoga
Shravanam,
is
Maranam,
basically
Nididhyasana.
knowing the truth.
Yeah, 1 minute, Ashaji. Let Saravananji complete. Yes, Saravananji.
Yeah. So learning and then through jnana trying to reach the highest goal, which is to like self-realization through Shravanam, Maranam, and Nididhyasana.
Wonderful. So now, if let's say Surya Namaskara kind of practices may start with the body as a starting point, and Karma Yoga is with the mind, because the action originates in the mind. Where is this Jnana Yoga happening? Where is this Jnana Yoga?
In the mind.
The mind, intellect.
In the mind, in the intellect. Wonderful. Ashaji, you wanted to say something.
Basically, Jnana Yoga is like differentiating between what is the truth and the untruth. Like also, like we know that we are essentially we are very pure, but in the way like with lot of conditioning, we are also not knowing our true nature. So realizing our true nature and knowing what the truth, maybe we can attain through Jnana Yoga.
Excellent. Our mind, you can see different functions of the mind. There is a memory function. It can remember. So that is the memory function. Then it can think. Analytical thinking. 1 + 2 = 3. All these kinds of go right, take a left. All these are analytical. Yeah. Or what you can also call as logical thinking. So there is that aspect of the mind. Then there's an aspect of feeling, which is purely like I felt, we use that kind of word, no? There you're not thinking, but you're using some other faculty of your mind. There's a feeling faculty of the mind. So there's a memory, there's a thinking, there's a feeling, but there's another higher aspect of the mind, which is what you can call as your intellect, or your ability to discriminate, viveka. That is also in your mind. So now I may feel something, I may be thinking something, but I need to choose something, right? So for example, somebody says, come, let's go to a bar and drink. All your worries will be gone. Now that's a valid thought. It has come. So now there's a feeling also. Yeah, it's nice. You've seen He says, when I drink, I'm all right. So now there's another choice where somebody says, no, come here, let's sit. Let's chant Krishna Nama. That will also help you to get rid of your fears and all your anxieties. So now, you need to choose what to choose, what is right in life, what is the right step to take. There is an aspect of the mind that comes into picture in this situation, which has to say, all right, this is what I want to focus on. Decision making, the ability to decide. Because decision making in this world is out of so many conflicting kinds of inputs. It may seem like drinking is okay, Harinama is also okay, or both are same. It doesn't matter. Let me just do that. So the aspect of the mind which helps us to decide and that to take the right decisions is called intellect. And how does intellect operate? Intellect operates on the content of the mind only. So it can decide only based on what it knows, not what it doesn't know. That is a lower level intellect. Man's intellect. Because man's intellect operates only by the information gathered from the world. Somebody says you are a man. Somebody says you are a woman. Somebody says you belong to this jati. Somebody says this is good, this is bad. All that content is what has gone into the mind. And the intellect operates on that part. And constantly is deciding. It is deciding. But it is deciding based on the input from the man's mind or the society's mind. That is the input given by the society. But the society's mind is not always divine mind. Because society's mind is in the world, which is apparently divided. So there is a higher level intellect, which is the divine intellect. So that requires divine knowledge. So here Jnana Yoga means to operate in this world with the divine knowledge and to decide right and wrong with the divine knowledge as the basis. What is the divine knowledge? Look at existence. In existence, there is a continuous yajna happening. There is a receive and give, receive and give. What should be then the focus of this mind and body? Let it also participate in the yajna. That's a divine intellect. To receive the knowledge or the jnana from the realized masters and to imbibe that and to live in accordance with that. That is the divine jnana. So jnana yoga means using the higher level intellect to realize who I am truly and how I should live my life. So for that, one uses their mind's intellectual capability as the main tool. The asanas are mainly from the body standpoint. It begins with the body. So somebody who is more body oriented may begin with the Kriya Yoga. But here also the intent is union, to be one with the divine. To be one with the divine means what? In the mind's eye, to look at various aspects and to realize what is truth, what is not truth. So all the great masters say the ultimate path of realization is jnana only. So in that sense, in a way, when you look at it, it may appear like there is something which is a little more greater than the other. We have not yet come to the Bhakti Yoga. But what has happened in Jnana Yoga also? Jnana Yoga also is when the mind is silent enough, then only the higher level intellect can operate. If the mind is constantly disturbed by the lower level thoughts, survival thoughts, food, sleep, these kinds of thoughts, then the higher level intellect cannot operate. So for the higher level intellect to operate, then the mind has to become stable. So the Karma Yoga, Kriya Yoga have brought that state of the mind. So in that sense, there's a slight higher and lower. Then what is this Bhakti Yoga? What is Bhakti? What does Bhakti mean really?
I think bhakti really means without any expectations, you are just in offering whatever you are offering because of the love that you have in your within yourself.
Excellent. Very nice.
Love for the Supreme.
Love for the Supreme.
Yeah. So everything then becomes an offering at the feet of the Supreme, and it is not to gain anything out of it, or what I'm going to get if I do this many japa, what I'm going to get. Those kind of things do not come into picture at all. So as far as I can understand, sir, especially when you have given Sri Totakacharya's example here, what I feel is in this shloka, Totakacharya was supposed to be not very intelligent as far as Adi Shankara's other disciples are concerned. And but his devotion was so great towards his guru that whatever he did was for him. So in that, he rose even above the other three disciples, even though he was not considered to be as intelligent as them or as well versed in whatever teachings the guru gave. So he rose above all that because of his one quality of complete devotion and surrender, I feel. I think that is what essentially is the essence of this shloka, that there are various paths to, for going towards the Supreme, but all that can give you many, material things, which is again temporary. So only when you approach the divine by devotion, true devotion, then you attain him itself, I think, at the end. That is what. So devotion is the highest form of service to the Lord, is what I feel.
Very nice. Wonderful. See, inherently, all of us are bhaktas, inherently. But where is our bhakti towards may change. I may be a bhakta of money. I may be a bhakta of power. I may be a bhakta of like that. When I become a bhakta of things in the world, there is also bhakti. Why I run behind money? Because there is bhakti, there is devotion. What? Money, I want money. With money, I will be fine. So that is also bhakti only. Because in order to get money, it won't happen just like that. I sit and money drops into my lap. So I have to be a bhakta. But that bhakti binds me. Whereas the bhakti towards the divine, towards the Supreme, that liberates me. Why? In that bhakti, what am I seeking? That divine only. And what is the attitude of the seeking there? That, Lord, you are the greatest. And this is just an instrument. Make me thy instrument of divine actions. May this body and mind be the greatest and the best possible instrument of your actions. Not man-made actions, not society actions, not what I think kind of actions, but may the divine actions flow through this. And in that bhakti, like how Padmaji said, Giri, Giri was considered to be relatively less intelligent than all his other disciples. See, the four Jyotirmatas set up by Sri Shankaracharya, each one of them became the main pontiff. So Giri also later, he was called as Totakacharya. There's a wonderful story of that. Some of you may know it. So once Shankaracharya was about to sit for the class and all the other Shishyas were there, Giri hadn't yet come. He was at the river washing the clothes of Shankaracharya. He used to dedicatedly and lovingly serve Shankaracharya. And he used to always ask within himself, when he looks at all his other disciples, they're all taking the message of my Guru in such profound way. Somebody like Padmapada is writing a Vyakhyana of Brahma Sutra of Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya's Vyakhyana that he has added commentaries. Such is the great wisdom of somebody like Padmapada. What am I able to do? I cannot even understand these things so well. What use can I be of to my Guru's message? It's such a wonderful message, and I am unfit to be the carrier of that message. That used to be constantly his feeling. But he was fully in devoted service to Sri Shankaracharya. So he was washing the clothes. So class was about to begin. Shankaracharya asked, where is Giri? So one of them says, Giri is not here. He has gone to the river. But you please start the class. No, we'll wait for Giri to come. Then the Shishya says, anyway, Giri will not understand all this. Why don't you just begin? Shankaracharya says, no, we'll wait for the Giri to come. Then at that moment, deep within the heart of Giri rose a prayer. How can I take this jnana? And Shankaracharya's blessing came into him. And he rushed to Shankaracharya. And that is when it is said, he composed this wonderful shloka in the meter called Totaka. And that is how then Shankaracharya called him as Totakacharya. So I've picked that shloka for us to enjoy here. Let's listen to that and then continue. There is also going to be brief meaning at the bottom. You can see that also.
Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. विदिताखिल शास्त्र सुधा जलधे महितोपनिषत् कथितार्थनिधे हृदये कलये विमलं चरणं भवशङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं भवशङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं भवशङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. Karuna Varunalaya Palaya Mam, Bhava Sagar Dukkha Viduna Hridam, Rachaya Kila Darshana Tattva Vidam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam, Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. Bhavata Janata Suhida Bhavita Nija Bodha Vicharana Charumate Kalayeshwara Jiva Viveka Vidam Bhava मे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं सुकृतेऽधिकृते बहुधा भवतो भविता समदर्शनलालसता अतिदीनमिमं परिपालय मां भव शङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं 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 जगतीमवितुं कलिताकृतयो विचरन्ति महामहसश्चलतः अहिमां शुरिवात्र विभासि गुरो भव शङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं 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 गुरुपुङ्गव पुङ्गव केतनते समतामयतां नहि कोऽपि सुधी शरणागत वत्सल तत्त्वनिधे भव शङ्कर देशिक मे भव शङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं 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 भव शङ्कर देशिक मे शरणं
So in that, pure feeling from the heart, where I am not important, thy is important. Because I is all this changing thing. The I is from lower self. May the divine action flow. Any other points or anything else anybody wants to share?
Yeah. The way I see it is also dropping the ego. With the ego, it's like trying to achieve the same thing is like climbing the Himalayas. While drop the ego and surrender with the true devotion, the grace, like you'll be there. It also reminds me of that scene in Mahabharata where Arjuna and Duryodhana are there, and Krishna offers both of them what you want. And like while one wants all the other things, right? Arjuna says like, when you are there, who else is needed, right? And it applies, I feel like, on everything, to everything. Being separate is still not the same.
So that's why the example given in the path of the yoga is that of a baby cat and a baby monkey. If you noticed, for the baby monkey to go from one place to another place, it has to hold on to the mother. Okay, it has to make an effort. Whereas in the case of a baby cat, the mother just carries. The baby cat is fully confident and clear that the mother will carry me. So there is no sense of anxiety there. The mother carries the baby. See, our lives, we think I am the doer. I am the one who has to do everything. I have to put effort. I have to do. But it is so many divine incidents, divine coincidence, divine interactions that is enabling all of these to function. If Surya Bhagavan did not shine one day, where would this earth be? Where would all the things that I consider as that I want to eat will be? We had crores of rupees. During Corona, people were dying for lack of breath. So who is doing? What is that I am doing? So this imaginative I creates all obstacles.
I also want to share one incident.
Yes.
Which I realized maybe sometime last week. Even as a parent, as a dad, like I do so much to take care of the child, right? And like a lot of the time goes on to ensure that the child is taken care of, and the child doesn't know. The child says, "Hey, I know, you don't have to tell me." Then I was thinking, how different am I? Right? Like, how did I come? And like, if there is a creator, I'm sure whatever the love and affection I have on my child, there is going to be infinite times of that. But do I realize that? So even I am working like that, saying like using my ego. I'm saying like, oh no, I will do it. I can do it. But then like there is still he is there, and like he is looking at us in the same way how I am looking at my daughter, right? And like infinite times there. So yeah, that one sudden realization like just humbled me.
Wow.
Very nice, Saravanan.
Yeah. And I was trying to convince her, saying that like, no, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm thinking, and then I'm thinking like, what am I doing then? Like,
very nice. Very nice. So that's all we can do. Be a channel. Be a open channel. Create less and less obstruction. So the more I move away, the more the divine shines. Wonderful. Is there any other point? Shall we end our contemplation for today? I'll also share Upanishad Jnana Ganga. There is a series made by Chinmaya Mission. In that there is a wonderful episode of Giri. So the bottom side of the photo is actually from that episode. It's one of my favorite. Very well done. So I'll share that. Please take a look at it. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Thank you all.
Thank you.